Hello, my name is Cameron from BusyBodyVisa.com, and in this video we're going to talk about why wealthy people get denied US visas. Now, on the surface it sounds counterintuitive because money usually equals influence, and a lot of smart, successful people think that their wealth will shield them from a denial. However, that is not the case, especially when it comes to K-1 visas. And I'm going to explain how wealthier people can protect themselves from a denial. Actually, a lot of my clients are wealthier and they were shocked when they found out that their 129F petition was denied. And these are some common traps that many wealthier people who petition a partner through the I-129F process fall into. So instead of just giving a boring listicle, I want to give you some archetypes of wealthy clients that I've experienced and why they got denied. So let's go ahead and start off by giving a basic overview. Remember, the K-1 petition is not a simple process. It has to go through 3 different agencies to be approved. USCIS, the National Visa Center or NVC, and then the consular stage, which is the local consulate in the area of the beneficiary. All these agencies have to agree in order for your K-1 to be approved. And that's why all your ducks need to be in order. Everything needs to be squeaky clean, especially nowadays under this current administration, in order to be approved. By the way, if you would like professional help for your visa and don't want to worry about these mistakes, you can book a consultation with me at BusyBodyVisa.com. Thank you. I just want to keep it real. You're looking at overworked, underpaid officers that don't really have as much time per case as they should, and morale is at an all-time low at USCIS. So that's why when you file your I-129F petition, you don't want to give them any reason to doubt or give them or cause them extra work. All right, so let's talk about John Parker. Obviously not his real name. He owns a successful construction company. He started his business from the ground up. He went to the Philippines for a vacation and he met Julie. He's had a lot of women going after him before, but this one felt different. She wasn't barraging him with sad stories. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't trying to use sex as a weapon, anything like that. And he knew that she was the one. They had the same faith. They had a strong faith. She was a good, submissive, not servile partner. And so he was ready to bring her over. So Joe thought he'd be a shoo-in. He's a multimillionaire. He has 3 houses in Texas and drives a Ford Ranger. All American success story. So unfortunately, he was shocked when 6 months later, he received a denial for his I-129F petition. What happened? Well, because like most people in the construction industry, he lives through the business. So as far as USCIS was concerned, his actual personal income was extremely low. He was below the poverty level because he would transfer all of his money from the business. So even though he sent transfer receipts, it wasn't enough to convince USCIS that he had enough money to support this lady. And therefore his petition was denied. So what happened with Joe? We had to go through his records. We had to show that he is the owner of the business, and we had to do some other things behind the scenes to show that his income was more than enough. And we had to use his assets to meet the income requirement. Now, a lot of wealthy people have this problem because a lot of them will have their assets in LLCs. So the LLC owns the house, not him. So that's why in the case of Joe, we had to put the house in his name, so then he had an asset and we could use that to show his income. How this is handled will depend on the client's individual circumstance, but that's just an example of how you can verify your income. All right, next is Jeff Rothstein. He was a very kind Jewish man. He did everything right. He went to school, studied hard, and became a doctor. He went to Thailand on a medical mission where he met a beautiful Thai lady. Everything seemed right. Again, not asking for money right away, not barraging him with sad stories. Everything just seemed on point. However, Jeff was extremely frugal, to put it lightly. And so he decided to just hire a cheap lawyer, like a $900 lawyer, to do the process for him. And the way budget lawyers, we'll just say that, the way budget lawyers work is they have a high volume, low attention model. A lawyer who's charging $900, he needs probably 50, 60, 70 cases a month in order to make a living, which means he can't give each case the attention that it needs. It's not that he's bad, it's just that his business model depends on high turnover. He's got to get those petitions out as quickly as possible. He's constantly having to bring petitions in. As a result, this lawyer used generic templates for their letters of intent to marry. They're the same letters that he used for all of his clients, he just changed the names. And he also used templates to piece together their photos so they just look too perfect, like out of a magazine. This is exactly the kind of stuff that immigration service officers or ISOs are trained to look out for. Boilerplate templates, ChatGPT, generic templates that they've seen 1,000 times before. Those are huge indicators of fraud. So in other words, his petition looks scripted and USCIS knew it. And that's why he ended up getting 2 RFEs and then a NOR, or a notice of intent to refuse. And so that's why I had to go in, redo his entire petition, which took a long time, and we were able to get it through, and that's why his petition was eventually approved. Next is Sadiq Khan. He's an aerospace entrepreneur. He owns an aircraft parts company. He was an immigrant himself, became a citizen, worked his way up, and ended up owning the company. His parents from back in Turkey set him up with a friend of the family, very nice lady. The relationship was genuine by Islamic standards, and everything was ready to go. So, however, Sadiq outsourced his petition to his lawyer, his standard lawyer. And I'm sure the lawyer is a good corporate attorney. However, he had no immigration experience whatsoever. And as a result, the lawyer kind of put it on the side, didn't take the petition seriously. Honestly, based on what I saw of the petition, he probably would have been better off filing it himself, but that's besides the point. But his petition was just horrible. No cover letter, no timelines, no letters of intent. Just the application was just the basic application itself with some pictures dumped in it. And he used the wrong edition of the form, which is actually something USCIS takes very seriously. You must use the updated edition of the I-129F petition. Otherwise, your petition will be sent back. So that's what happened with Sadiq. His petition was sent back. He wasn't happy. He hired me. We had to fix it and send it. And then the petition got approved. He still hasn't gotten a K-1 visa yet, because his I-129F has been approved, but he's still in the NVC stage. But he's in a lot better shape than he was when he just had someone who had no experience in immigration filing his case for him. And to be honest, he's lucky he just didn't get a flat-out denial, because the USCIS adjudicator's field manual says that a petition that is so lacking can be denied without an RFE. This is to save immigration officers time. They want people who are serious, that's why. So next we have Michael Thompson, obviously not his real name. He would snowbird to the Philippines. So he was retired, he would go to various places, he'd go to the Philippines for a month, go back to New Jersey, go to the Philippines for a month, and then go back to New Jersey. However, in one of his trips, he met a 25-year-old model, and she was very nice. He said they get along very well. She seemed to be genuinely affectionate for him. And he would go back to the Philippines about 3 or 4 times a year. Each one was a short visit. But he had his dollars went very far in Cebu, more so than in Manila. And as a result of that, they went to very upscale restaurants, upscale resorts. They lived a high life. But that ended up actually being the problem, because he didn't have any pictures of him going to see her family or in her local house or anything like that. His petition got flagged for IMBRA, or International Marriage Brokerage Act, concerns. So when there's a large age gap, those petitions automatically get marked for more scrutiny, because they want to make sure that there's no human trafficking concerns. Remember, the Philippines is a tier 1 country for human trafficking. And because all their pictures together were at expensive resorts, expensive hotels, expensive restaurants, that is a telltale sign for grooming. And so his petition was delayed for a very long time until finally he reached out and contacted me, and I instructed him to go back to the Philippines, meet her friends, meet her family, take pictures at church, things like that, and to help his petition go through. In his case, unfortunately, that was too late. They went ahead and denied it, so that's why I told him to just get married and do an I-130, and that's what he did, and then that finally was approved. So he could have saved 2 years of his time by doing the petition properly. And so that's why this is such a serious matter. This is not a trivial issue. You're talking 2 years of your life delayed if you make a mistake when you file for an I-129F or K-1 visa. So just to summarize, here's why wealthy people sometimes get denied despite their wealth. They failed to understand that USCIS is not just looking for money. They're looking for an emotional connection, i.e. a bona fide relationship. You remember in my last video, I've said it many times, only evidence is evidence. USCIS doesn't care how much you say you love your partner. USCIS cares how well you can prove it. The way you prove it is through showing pictures of a genuine relationship, not just taking her to expensive restaurants, but meeting her family. Not just taking her out to a trip to Thailand, but going to church with her. Not just pictures in an expensive hotel, but some pictures of you guys at the zoo. Not just a chat saying hi and bye, but chats showing that you had a fight and you made up for it. That's what a legitimate relationship looks like, and that's what USCIS wants to see. Lack of a paper trail, so you got to be able to verify your income. That's a big one. Even your congressman can't help you with that, because some wealthy people will try to contact their senator and get them to vouch for them, and that helps, except if you can't verify your income. Because remember, USCIS, these are government employees, which means their salaries are paid for through taxes. So they're not too happy with people that avoid taxes. And then they underestimate how appearances create red flags. Yes, in Southeast Asia, relationships between older men and younger women are common, but that doesn't mean to a USCIS officer in Texas who has never left his home state is going to be comfortable with that. You have to show that this is a real relationship and that you're not bringing her over, frankly, just for sex or for prostitution or other human trafficking means. All right, so here are some tips to make sure you get it right the first time. Write your own letter of intent to marry. Show real communications. I know some people are private and that's hard for them, but this is not the time to be shy. 3, real life photos, not staged. Document the relationship like it's a story. Tell the officer a story through your evidence. 5, balance the dynamic. Show mutual affection for one another. That doesn't mean you have to be tonguing her down. It just means they'll want to see closeness, physical closeness. Show that you guys have made long-term plans together. There's mutual affections. Show, for example, your mom talking to her mom. That's big. Especially having her talk to your family, that is a big deal. And I'm actually going to say this in my marriage video, but for your CR1, the strongest evidence you can have to prove that the relationship is real is if you have wedding photos that have both yours and her family in them. That is almost a guaranteed approval. And we'll talk about why in my next video. All right, so if you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Also, you can book a consultation with me at busybodivisa.com. My name is Cameron. Thank you very much.